to fight you now.
Oh, are you?
This is Movie Fights, where we pit the best movie fights against each other and decide who wins so we can find the best ever movie fight. Last time in Movie Fights, we had 3 winners: The Punisher, Flashpoint, and The Revenant. This time we're going to start off with Deadpool versus Wolverine versus Batman versus Superman. This year's biggest live box office hit so far is Deadpool versus Wolverine, and this iconic fight is one that you've all been calling out for. The infamous car fight. Now, in the adjacent series to these new videos, in Volume 10 I spoke about the complexity of shooting in a car, especially for a fight scene, and I offered a simple solution: remove the car itself. And that's what this film does. Firstly, the car is stationary, so one problem is solved. And the second problem is the car. Well, problem solved. Another thing that this scene has to its advantage is that both characters are basically unkillable and feel minimum to 0 pain. So this fight can be as creative and outlandish as the director imagines. Not to mention, the scene is really meant to be a little joke to suggest that these two characters are basically It's a fun scene with both characters using their fighting styles against each other. It's well shot, and the use of space as well as the camera work is brilliant. But my only issue with the scene, as well as my issue with the Deadpool movies in general, is the lack of consequences involved. There is 0 suspense to the scene. Neither character was going to suffer any damage, nor was there going to be any plot changing results from this fight, much like this fight. Batman vs Superman, in retrospect, feels like the biggest cash grab movie ever made. 2 characters with 0 motivation to fight each other actually fight each other, and neither wins. And their shared bond of names of their mothers stops them from concluding the fight.
Kill Martha!
What? Can't even believe I'm reading that. And this fight has the problem I spoke about in another video, the Black Widow versus Taskmaster issue. God, will there be a bloody superhero fight that will just give me a definitive winner and an ending? Obligatory setup alert. This movie sucks, but as always, I remain objective. Having had to re-watch this fight for this video, it's actually technically very good. As an isolated fight, it pisses all over the Deadpool fight. 3 locations, great back and forth between the 2 characters trading blows, and if there's one thing Zack Snyder can do, is shoot action, apart from this. Whatever this is meant to be, just awful. But this scene doesn't go for slow-mo. In fact, it does the opposite and cranks things up. The ending though, wow, I nearly removed all the marks for the ending alone. It's just so bad. But I do love this.
I understand.
It sums up the huge power imbalance between the 2 characters. So I'm going to go for BVS for the win here. And being honest, minus the moment, it's not even close. Next up is Glimmer Man versus Hard Target. Now, for those of you who think Steven Seagal has always been a joke of an action star, you might just be wrong. The man was actually considered the biggest action star, or at least one of the biggest action stars in the mid-90s. A far cry from the absolute crap he's churning out nowadays. His interview with the legendary Scott Adkins is a bit cringe too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not white, but
Okay. I'm
Non-Japanese.
yeah. My mother was American Indian, and my father's a Russian Mongol, so I'm Asian. I don't know what the hell I am, but am I?
But this fight is actually damn good. Granted, his moves are rather limited, a lot of standing around and waving arms, but due to the stature of the man, it's all believable, unlike now. And there's even some comedy in the scene.
Do you validate parking? Hello, Lintos. No, that won't work. We're closed for renovation. I'd say 2 months.
And who doesn't love a little bit of Brian Cox?
Here's a strategy, Tom. Why don't you pipe down till you come and tell me I've got a grandson coming? Or are you shooting blanks? Bore on the floor over there.
I got a little extra, huh?
You having fun?
John Woo and Van Damme are the combination no one knew they wanted and needed. Did someone say slow-mo and roundhouse kicks? Yes, please. This fight is your typical 80s and 90s movie fight. Damsel in distress. No, not that one. This one. Group of modern men doubting the fighting ability of a stranger. Arses thoroughly kicked. And the filmmaking from John Woo feels so fresh, even 30 years on. And the combat here is peak Van Damme. The man is a wrecking ball of random men who attack random women. There is a poetry to John Woo's work, which in the 80s and 90s was balletic and unique, which actually makes this matchup pretty hard to judge. And whilst I judge, could you hit that like button and subscribe button if you're having fun? So listen, I'm gonna have to go for the win to Van Damme, John Woo and Hard Target here, just for this shot alone. He showed the world what real consequences are like. And speaking of consequences, here's our payoff. Captain America Civil War vs. Spider-Man. So here's the thing, as I've mentioned a couple times before, I rewatch all these fights for these videos, and this is the first time watching this fight in a few years. And my god, we took this period of filmmaking for granted. This is peak cinema. And that's coming from someone who prefers world cinema. But this scene is maybe the best fight scene I've done in any video so far. Granted, I have context of the scene, but even without context, one man is trying to protect his friend from being murdered by another of his friends. There is so much heart to this fight. Even within the fight, there are obstacles, and the fight lasts for nearly 7 minutes. It is truly brilliant. And what I love about it is that there are stakes here. Winter Soldier could die, but instead he loses an arm. Cap and Tony's friendship is destroyed forever.
That shield doesn't belong to you.
It was never the same after this fight.
You don't deserve it. My father made that.
And it shows an unhinged and immature Tony Stark. So many levels here, and normally in any other situation I would say that this fight wins easily. But it's up against a fight that really started off this new era of superhero films in this film, and one of my favorite superhero fight scenes ever. And it features this moment, which in my whole life as a cinephile remains top 5 most visceral moments ever. Sam Raimi is a tremendous director. Just listen and watch out for these little moments. The screams and the shrieks from Peter Parker. The intentional quick extreme close-ups, the quick cuts that say so much. There's so much going on here. Each punch feels bone crunching.
Oh.
One thing to note in this scene is that this was made during the very early days of special effects, and the way they used it in the scene is just so brilliant. Sparse, yet so impactful. Even better, our protagonist is getting beaten here, until Green Goblin pushes things too far.
MJ and I, we're gonna have a hell of a time.
Do not mess with a man and his woman. And much like the scene before, there are consequences. A superhero movie with consequences. My kind of movie. For me, this is a tough one. There's some real nostalgia involved here with Spider-Man, and also the scene is first rate, despite being made 14 years prior to Civil War and relying a lot on practicals. Tobey Maguire is my Spider-Man, and the direction is flawless. But I'm gonna give Civil War the win here. There's so much depth and story in this fight. And like the BVS fight, there are various locations within the same fight. Now, before anyone says anything, I know the Spider-Man fight had a longer beginning which had more locations, but the real meat of the fight happens in this one location. Right, so that's BVS, Hard Target, and Civil War. This is your chance to get involved so we can begin to rank these fights. From these 6 winners so far, head over to my X page and vote for your favorite fight. But as a little mini ranking system right now, just top of my head, I'm going to say Civil War is number 1. I'm going to put Spider-Man as number 2, and I'm going to put the Revenant as number 3. I will have a complete ranked list for you in the next video. As always, hit that like button and tell me in the comments which fights should be up against each other. And remember, it's not the movies, it's the fights within the movies. Let me know. The regular bad movies versus good movie fights videos will make a return, I do promise. But they take a while longer to research, record, and edit. So just give me a bit of time with those. As you may have noticed, we're now on Saturday evenings at 9 PM UK time for this specific series. So hit that notification button to be notified as to when the next video is posted. See you in the next one.